and welcome to everybody here. You are, as you well know, in the midst of one of the most important transformations in your and your child's life. And I'm here to talk to you not just as the Associate Provost for Academic Affairs, who has a view across campus and a view of what enables our students, our undergraduate students, to thrive, but also as a fellow parent. My daughter just graduated in May from college, so I was sitting where you're sitting just a few years ago, and I'm hoping that this kind of dual perspectives, both personal and kind of professional, might be of some help to you. I know very well how almost unbelievable it is that this child, who has been so all-consumingly present in your household, at least if your household is anything like ours, how unbelievable it is that this child is no longer under your roof. My daughter left home 4 years ago, and I still can't believe that she's not there every day. This is exciting, incredibly exciting, as you watch your child find his or her own way on this new path. And it's also sad, and will probably continue to be sad. Your daily lives are simply lonelier now, although some of you may be somewhat relieved not to have the constant present. You, however, have work to do in the next couple of years, and I'm here to urge you to light into it just as your children are lighting into the work of making themselves educated adults. And your task is to wash your offspring, and this is not something that you do once. It is a process over a number of years. Your job is to let them go and to help let themselves go, to see how they make their way in the world, how they discover capacities that you and they didn't know that they had, and to succeed in ways that you might not have anticipated, and certainly in fields that you know nothing about and maybe haven't even heard of. Your job, as you well know by now, is to provide that stable, solid base from which your children can venture out, and to which, of course, when they need, they can also return. I would urge you, again, you all have experience with this already, and I would urge you just to keep at it. Your job is not to take care 24/7, as you've just been hearing from a number of people. It's not to jump in and solve the problems. It's not to tell your children what courses to take or what paths to follow. And that restraint, I know, is incredibly difficult, and I think you can appreciate that difficulty, the difficulty that we had in our household, an only child of two academic parents who, of course, always knew what the answer might be to any academic situation, any question. Your children really do need the opportunity to grow in strength and confidence by solving their own problems and by making their own mistakes, as excruciating as those may be to us. And I think that this is also the time to step back and to trust in your own excellence as parents and to your children's intelligence and curiosity. Your job with them is to strategize, to ask questions, and then with caution to offer advice if they ask, but again, not to dictate the solution or even to detail the steps to it, and certainly not to make calls or send emails on your child's behalf. Communication with your child most often, and you may well have discovered this already, your child needs not to talk to you, text you, email you, Facebook you, or whatever every day, even though you may want that, and even though you may need that. Depending on your child, once a week is the kind of tried and true formula for a Skype or a phone call or whatever form of kind of extended communication works best in your household. And what I found the most difficult thing in this regard was to really hold myself back and let the frequency and kind of contact be dictated by my child. But I would also add a caveat to that, because I think that now is the time also for your children to recognize that they have a responsibility to you as your children. This is the time for them to begin to take on that responsibility, and that means that it's good for you to establish that, yes, indeed, they do need to be in contact. Maybe once a week, maybe your threshold would be, if I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks, I'm going to do something. But they need to understand that you have needs as well as they do, and that they need to be responsible to you in being in touch and letting you know how they're doing. We found in our household anyhow that the ritual of setting a convenient time for us it was a phone call once a week. And this really helped us build a relationship with our daughter as an adult, because it said not just that her schedule was important to when we would talk, but also that we had lives and we had things to do, and our schedules also needed to be accommodated. So, and actually, now that she's graduated, we continue this kind of back and forth about, okay, what's a good time to talk? Is that going to work for you? And when we get on the phone, we say, is this still okay? Is this good? And she does the same thing with us. And that's been a really kind of nice way of, sort of figuring out the kind of family dynamics. It sets the expectation of communication without insisting on anyone's terms. I have to say that, of course, if she sends a text and says, I need to talk to you, we say, of course, and we try to make that happen as soon as possible. And we can always tell if she's in a rough patch, either socially or academically. We would tend to check in with her fairly regularly, maybe more often than usual by email. And we found that email worked because it allowed her to dictate or to decide whether she really needed our help anymore. I'm sure you probably all had this experience where your child calls, or in the midst of some crisis, and you talk it through, and you hang up, and you go away, and you're trying to think it through, and you're problem solving, you're talking to your spouse, your friend, your partners about what to do about it like this. And the next time you're in touch, you say, okay, so I've got some ideas for you about X, and your child says, oh, no, that's fine, that's all taken care of. I think this kind of, they've kind of unloaded themselves on you, and they go off, and you're sort of working behind the scenes and trying to figure this out. So if you let them kind of come back to you on the problems, that tends to work. I found that one of the best strategies for combating parental anxieties, large and small, was really just to give myself the permission to sit back and enjoy. These are incredibly interesting, talented, creative, fun people that you've produced, and it's really their turn to take you places that you've never been, as they explore what this university has to offer. So give them the space to do that and go along for the ride. So they come and say, okay, next semester I'm taking Transport Phenomena and Biological Systems, which is actually the name of a course we offer. And you think, well, I have no idea what that is, but it sounds fabulous. Or, Philosophy of the Mind, fantastic. And I can tell you, and I'm sure that many of you have discovered this already, it's just an incredible pleasure to see your child's mind open to the world, and how new topics of conversation for those calls and those Skypes open up as you show interest in what your child is doing, and as your child tells you about his classes, about what he's reading, about